figure was too high by a factor of at least 10, the science behind algae fuel is perfectly correct. And a host of other companies, mostly small startups, but also Exxon, had begun developing the multiple technologies involved. I eagerly followed the progress of these entrepreneurs, trying to figure out what was really possible. As I did, I found myself increasingly engaged and ultimately engrossed by the little green cells at the heart of these enterprises. Biofuels, as it turns out, are only a small part of the promise of algae. My fascination became this book. It is the story of my journey by phone, plane, car, boat, drone, and scuba fins across the U.S. and around the globe, from Canada to Wales to South Korea, to understand how algae, the most powerful organisms on the planet, influence our lives for better and for worse, and what role they will play in our future. I started deep in Earth's history and traveled to the bleeding edge of modern biotechnology. Along the way, I meet scientists and entrepreneurs who have been harnessing these tiny dynamos to improve our health, nourish our ever-growing human population, and clean up the mess we are making of our planet. Algae are Earth's authentic alchemists. Using sunlight for power, they take the dross of carbon dioxide and, with water and a scintilla of minerals, turn it into organic matter, the stuff of life. Even better, as they work their combinatorial magic, they burp oxygen. Take a breath. At least 50% of the oxygen you inhale is made by algae. What is waste to them is priceless to all respiring animals. Without algae, we would gasp for air. There is no shortage of algae. The oceans are blanketed in a dense but invisible 600-foot-thick layer of them. There are more algae in the oceans than there are stars in all the galaxies in the universe. Swallow a single drop of seawater, and you could easily down several thousand of these unseen beings. They are the essential food of the microscopic grazing animals at the bottom of the marine food chain. If all algae died tomorrow, then all familiar aquatic life, from tiny krill to whales, would quickly starve. In fact, if algae hadn't evolved more than 3 billion years ago and oxygenated the atmosphere, multicellular creatures would never have graced the oceans. It was a species of green algae that 500 million years ago acclimated to life on land and evolved into all of Earth's plants. Without plants to eat, the first marine animals that wriggled out of the water 360 million years ago would never have survived or continued to evolve and diversify into all the land-living creatures we know today, including us. If several million years ago our ancestor hominins hadn't had access to fish and other algae-eating aquatic life, and thus to certain key nutrients, we would never have evolved our outsized brains. Without algae, we couldn't know that all life depends on algae. Algae's influence extends long after their death. Their microscopic carbonaceous corpses, those that don't become food for aquatic animals and bacteria, drift down through the ocean like a steady snowfall. On the ocean floor, they silently accumulate, their carbon remains sequestered for eons. By transferring carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to long-term storage, algae help keep our planet from becoming an unbearable hothouse. About 50 million years ago, when the Arctic was last ice-free, year-round, a million-year burst of algae growth cooled the atmosphere to help create the icy conditions we see today. Phycologists, scientists who study algae, have identified some 72,000 species, but there may be 10 times as many yet to be named. Today, algae are in every earthly habitat, unseen under ice in Antarctica, blooming pink on the snows of the Sierra Nevada, in desert sand, inside rocks, on trees, and in the fur of three-toed sloths who eat them. They live symbiotically inside corals, which cannot survive without their partners. Coral reefs are home to 25% of the world's fish species and provide economic support to hundreds of millions of people. Now, they're dying at a shocking, heartbreaking rate because warming oceans disrupt the critical relationship between algae and their hosts. So, what exactly are algae? There is no exact answer. Algae is not a precise term, not a taxonomic category like the kingdom Animalia or the genus Homo or the species Homo sapiens. Algae, and the singular alga, is a catch-all term, a name for a group of diverse organisms. There are 3 types, which will meet in order of their evolution. The smallest, most ancient of them are the single-celled, internally simple blue-green algae, now generally